Okay, so we are called to order 9:33. We do have minutes from last month. Brian, last time you were able to share your screen, would you mind doing that again? That was helpful.
Sure.
Okay.
You want to put the minutes up and then share? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Hang on just a second.
Please let me know if it will not let you guys share. I'm looking for the option again here. That's for me to share.
Okay.
And June, thank you for taking such complete minutes. That's really helpful with a month between the meeting. It's like, what did we talk about last month?
Welcome. Thank you.
I did just enable the participant screen share, so hopefully that'll work now if it wasn't.
Yeah, sorry. I was just getting everything configured here. It should work now. Wait, no, it should work now.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So we met back March, excuse me, March 16th. We talked a little bit about the upcoming, well, at that point, they were upcoming edits to the ordinance. And I believe I saw an email from Bob that those had passed through council. Is that right, Carolyn?
Yes, I wasn't at the meeting, but yes.
They did. I was there. I can speak for that.
Okay, was there any, I was not at that meeting. Was there any discussion that was relevant to that, Chief Hawk, that we would want to be aware of?
Not really. It went in pretty short order from my recollection. They didn't really go into any great length about anything. They just approved it.
Okay, so hopefully when Bob gets back to the office, he can send a copy of all of those, copy of that to all of us, so we can have it for our records.
And
I know
you guys might know a little better than I apologize, Amy. I think there's something need to be advertised after they approved it for a period of time before it takes effect. I'm not certain of that. No.
Just automatic, yeah.
Okay.
not to my knowledge, but that would be a Bob question, I think.
Yeah, that was prior because we had to have it posted and for
Prior.
the public, the public hearing, which we already had to.
Okay.
So I think now that those have been approved, that we are green light to go ahead and post to the position. At least that's what I understood from the last meeting, that once the ordinance was approved, we were okay to go ahead. So is that your understanding as well, Chief Hawk and or Carolyn?
That's mine too. And I can talk to Bob about that and get that going.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think Chief Denise was going to draft an ad based on the ones that we were looking at, and then you were talking about looking at various places to post it. You thought Bob might have some ideas, and maybe some other local chiefs would have ideas of where to post that position. So I don't know if we want to wait until, just from a timing perspective, if we want to wait until the next meeting to review that ad, or if we want to just send it out via email and let people comment. I guess I would prefer the latter, so we're not stuck another month before we can go ahead and post that.
So, yeah, I will, to say we've been involved in a myriad of things would be an understatement, but I will get with Denise, and I can easily, if she drafts that, she has not drafted it yet, but if we have her do that, I can send it in an email, Amy, if you'd like to see it as soon as we have something, on paper with the qualifications. I can put it in an email if that's what you guys would prefer.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, based on the Sunshine Act, it's probably best to not respond to all, but we can certainly respond to you or Denise directly. I think just let's harness all the great minds we have on this board, and people might see things in a different manner. So good idea to just get from a citizen's perspective, our perspectives anyway, since we represent the citizens. So I sort of have digressed. Let's go back to reviewing the minutes and see if we can get those approved. I kind of jumped right in.
Okay, motion to approve?
Okay, I second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that is the minutes. Sorry, go back to. Um, sorry, I'm just reading through. So do you know, Chief Hawk, or maybe Carolyn, I did see, it might have been on social media, a post about accepting applications for the other two positions. So I assume that means that council did approve that this board would go from 3 to 5? Yes, okay. And does anyone know the time frame for that or the process around that for selecting the two new members?
So there would be a 30-day period where they have this posted, and then once it's completed and all applications have been submitted, then Bob will coordinate, get all the schedules together to do the interviews. Once
Okay.
that's done, then the recommendations would be made to council, and then the vote would occur. I'm going to guess it's probably going to take another 30, 60, probably 60 to 90 days to complete that whole process. So
Okay. Okay. Just thinking ahead about, I guess maybe by the time we get to interviewing, we might have our newer members on board. And remind me again, Carolyn, they're not both, they're staggered, right? From a time perspective, like one would be a 2-year appointment, one would be a 3-year just to start. Is that right?
that's what I believe it was going to be. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments about our membership changes coming up here? No. Okay. Okay, so perhaps we should look at, Chief Hawk sent out this morning a updated application that had gone to our solicitor. I don't know if that's Falco or someone else, but do you have that, Brian? Do you want to, can you pull that up?
Sure.
Oh, nice family. I'm trying to find mine here. I don't, there it is.
It's here, sorry.
So I see Brian's comments are still, oh, Julie, here's one. Okay. Okay. So let's all look at this one. Looks like the first page is the same. So we're all looking at this for the first time, I think. I don't see any changes on the second page. Oh, that's interesting. Yours is showing as red. Mine is not. Huh. Maybe it's just how I have my settings. Okay, so the solicitor has updated that language there in number 9. That's fine.
And Amy, that was the town solicitor that was in our office. I think Ryan just sent that to us this morning.
Okay, thanks, Falco. I wasn't sure if it was you or what's the other guy's name? I can picture him, but I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I think it's Steve Corbel.
Yeah, Steve. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, that looks like minor kind of wordsmithing on 18 and 19 there. Okay. Matt or Brian, just jump in if you have any comments on what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I'm glad to see 20. That's that was from the new Pennsylvania law, basically. And the 21, I think, is not a bad thing either.
Okay. Oh, example. Okay, so here's the big changes. I wonder where this came from.
Let me see if there's I might be able to pull this up in Word and basically have it. You can show whose edits are whose. Hang on.
Well, Amy, I'm looking at the one that Ryan sent out this morning, Chief Hawks, at just like 8:30 or 9, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That's this. It doesn't have this?
Well, it's interesting, Matt, because it does, but his shows as red and mine doesn't. So there's something about his settings in Word or whatever that maybe mine was like accepted the edits already. But the version that I got from Chief Hawk this morning does look like the one that Brian's showing us.
Well, mine just it has a red line down the left, but it doesn't have everything in red.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what mine looks like too.
Yeah, so if you go to so the setting for that, let me see, it's
I think it's review and
Yeah,
then
right. exactly
show markup or something, or
right, exactly. All markup, exactly. If you have simple markup, it'll just show a line on the side on which parts were edited. And then if it says all markup, it'll actually show both the previous language and the new language, and there'll be a color difference between the different people who've provided edits. So, and then you'll basically be able to show, if you look under show markup, you can see specific people. Let's see.
yeah, I mean, just glancing through, like, not that I read every single word, but this seems very kind of standard. I was just curious kind of where it came from, but
I
don't think I'm in a position to question, like, if this is obviously this is cut and pasted from some standard form that we're not like making up, and to just say, yeah, it makes sense, and why would we question that? I did notice, Chief Hawk, if you're in the position to provide feedback, there's other places where township has been struck. And in section B1 in this section that was all changed, the example essential duties, it still says township.
Yeah, we'll have to edit that out. And I did catch that. It has obviously, like I said, in I guess in that email this morning, we're going to need to do some brushing up if this is going to be close to the final version.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean-
Julie Aquino, Aquino. I'm not sure who that is. It might be sometimes people just have an administrative person's name who installed the software, and that doesn't necessarily mean they made the edits.
Yeah, I see that too. It might be someone who works for Steve.
I believe so. I wouldn't swear to it, but I believe that's who he had in his office that's familiar with this and might have done most of these edits.
Yeah. Well, Chief, as you looked through, was there anything that you would question or that gave you pause?
I liked it. I thought that it addressed, the concerns, and just in my humble opinion, and then some, added quite a bit to the essential duties for certain, seemed to get it up to, what I believe, I'm sure would be the standards with, any Act 57 or what have you requirements.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Okay. Ryan, Matt, any comments?
No, I think it's pretty standard. It's not gonna change the world anything. So it's good to go as it is.
Okay. And Chief, you were going to ask the detectives who do the background check if there is any additional information that they would want from the applicants in order to effectively do the background check. Did you have a chance to do that, or?
Yeah,
Can you?
they felt that this encompassed it. There's a very, we do an in-depth background as it is, so they didn't believe anything needed added to get them there. The social media aspect, they will check that end of it as well. Whether someone has a Facebook or whatever, where if they're out there in social media, the detectives will dig into that. The town also hires a third-party company to do portions of this background. Off the top of my head, they do a financial background on them, I guess, to check on bankruptcies and such, loans, outstanding, any defaults on them. So it has been, and, has always been a thorough dive into the applicants, or the finalists for the position. Obviously someone has to score well enough to be under consideration before we undertake the in-depth background.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of physical descriptions in here, but I guess that's a big part of the job. Sometimes, hopefully not often.
Certainly can be, and will be at some point for any officer, whether
Mhm.
it's pushing a car off the road or dragging someone out of a house, that's on fire or something like that. I'm just thinking from personal experience.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, this is Falco. I just have a question, and maybe the chief can answer it. If you go back up to the waiver and release for background investigation page, I think it's page 12, it looks like the attorney from Steve Corbell's office is recommending replacing that with the authorization and release from MOPEC.
I saw that too, Falco.
Are you familiar with what their release says as far as the background check?
I am not, Falco. I saw that change. I haven't questioned it. What do you know about it? Is there anything you would suggest other to the contrary?
No, I haven't seen it. I know that MOPEC has been going through a lot of changes in their process as well, and especially with the new act. So maybe we should just go on their system, see if it's accessible so that we can just verify what it's saying. I mean, I guess the final version is going to swap out whatever that is for this page. So maybe we can just circulate that, to the members before they approve it.
Oh, here it is right here. Actually, they just pasted it in. I just pulled it up, but yeah, they pasted it in. It's in here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I guess the question is, so it seems like the suggestion is to delete that whole section before this, get rid of this, and basically put in this.
That's how I read it. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you click on to pull that up? I'm looking at my screen
I just
here.
Googled really
Put it on
fast MPO ETC authorization and release form.
I'm sorry, people were talking over each other.
I can just copy this link and send it up. But I just Googled MPO ETC release or authorization or whatever and pulled up. But I'll
okay.
put it in the chat.
Okay.
But Falco, it's in the one that Chief Hawk sent this morning.
Okay, that's the one I'm trying to see what you have to click on to pull that up.
I didn't have to
Nothing.
click on anything, but maybe I did go in and go into review and then all markup. So maybe that's what made it visible.
It's page
Denise?
14.
Okay, let me just. Yeah, I see all the red line. I just didn't see the comments. Now I think I might be able to see them.
Okay,
Okay, I think I have it. Yep, sorry.
no worries. So is everyone okay with, once Chief kind of cleans this up and takes all the edits out and whatnot, are we okay with calling this final?
Well, I mean, I guess, well, one thing that's different, if they do change to this MPOETC thing, it is more standardized, but there's no notary requirement on this. And there was a notary requirement on the previous one. I don't know if it matters, but that's a thing. There's a witness required on this one, but no notary. So there's a notary here.
Falco, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the language, just scrolling through it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought there was some language in here that might make the notary unnecessary, but I don't see anything. So, yeah, we could probably add something at the end of that.
So maybe we strike that paragraph, but leave the signature and notary and date and kind of move that to the end.
At the end of the new form. Right.
Yeah. And this brings me to
I'm
wonder.
assuming also.
Go ahead, Falco.
I'm sorry. I was just saying. I'm assuming also that this. I'm again just seeing this for the first time. I know that we're including now a social media search, and just questioning whether that should be specifically mentioned as well. That the background check will include that. I don't see that reference specifically in the MOPEC form.
Would it be advisable, not do we have to, would it be advisable to be explicit about all of the things they're going to look at in the background check on this form? Falco?
Yeah, and I guess that's the question. I mean, I know clearly we've included that now in the ordinance with reference to it. So it's not like it's a secret that you're going to be looking into social media as well. I mean, I guess if the search is going to be just the what's publicly accessible, and you want to see what's there without somebody deleting posts or so forth, then maybe you don't draw attention to it. If there's going to be a need to get beyond what's publicly accessible, and be able to get access codes or permissions to be able to see what's posted that's not public, then you're going to need the person to be able to provide that information to you.
Didn't we were going to add a request for the IDs of the social media accounts in here somewhere, and I don't see that anymore.
Yeah, are we asking Chief Hawk for passwords and whatnot to access information beyond just what's publicly accessible?
We certainly could. I don't believe our applications ever had that on it, but if we have, apparently Steve Corbell's office, for whatever reason, did not add that in there.
I'm not saying we should. Have we done that in the past ever?
I don't believe we have. What you folks have was even before these edits, was the last time we released, used them back in 2016 or 17, the last time is that when it was? So if there's any language out there, I don't know if Falco, or I could even ask Corbels if Falco says they're more, whoever, if there's any language we could use, we could certainly add it. This would be the time to do it for sure.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't think we actually talked about passwords. I think it was more just like, if your name's John Smith, it's like, which John Smith are you on Facebook, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Well, and also I know if it's a private account, we won't get in, we won't be able to see it. So it just depends how they have theirs posted online.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I guess I would defer to Falco or Steve. Like I I certainly don't want to cross a line into privacy expectations of people in viewing their um personal accounts without being explicit that we're going to do that if we're going to do that. But go ahead, Matt.
Falco, I was looking at both the paragraph that's supposed to be eliminated in that form, and neither of them talk about social media. What, so is that like something we were required to bring up, or is this something that we've talked about in the past that you're bringing up?
No, I think, yeah, the reason I'm mentioning it is because I think we kind of expanded that in the documents that we were just recently reviewing. So I think we added that to the ordinance changes. Now, we may have done that, and I think the chief may have said that we do that or did that already, but I'm assuming that was without going beyond what was publicly accessible. So I guess the real question is, was there something now anticipated to go beyond what's publicly accessible? Again, just to assure the town that there's nothing out there that's posted that's going to come back at the department, the commission, whatever the case may be, that's going to, once you hire this person, all of a sudden come to light and, be something that we wished we had had access to in making the decision. So the real question is, was there an intention to delve beyond just publicly accessible social media? And I think if you make it clear that as part of the application process, you have to provide those passwords to gain that access, then they understand that you're going to do that. So it's not that you're invading privacy at that point because they're giving you that permission.
So where would you recommend that we put that kind of language? Because it's not going to go on this municipal or MOPEC form.
Yeah, if it's good, if it's going to be anywhere, it would be in the waiver and release for the background investigation. So we would have to supplement the MOPEC form again if we're adding at the end the notary. That we would also have to add maybe another block. So it says authorization to release records. I don't know if this form can be manipulated. And maybe we would insert at the very end an additional block, authorization to access social media sites, and then in the language provide, that you would provide all necessary passwords to permit, the background investigator to access.
Okay.
Well, you would have to list whatever social media sites you would have, and then provide the passwords, to be able to gain access to them.
Fair enough.
I mean,
I think,
I guess
I guess again, my question is, what was? I know there were discussions with town council regarding this, and I know we have had discussions in the past regarding this. I mean, is the intent just to look at publicly accessible social media, or was there a desire to look at everything, so to speak, to make sure that there's no skeletons in the closet?
yeah, that would be my question too.
Yeah, what we talked about previously was just publicly available things. And again, it was just differentiating between which John Smith, for example. So I don't know.
Historically, that's what we've looked at, is just the publicly accessible stuff. I have heard of other area agencies. I'm not certain which ones yet, but I've heard that some in the area have requested that as part of the application that we're referencing, said, hey, give us your IDs and your passwords to all your social media sites so that we can, peer into what you do out there.
I personally would support that. I don't have a problem with that for sure.
Like I told Ryan, though, people can say, you know what, I'm going to delete this account for now or make it inactive. So I've never done it, but I know plenty of people have, and they said it's pretty much gone, like it's not there. And then so they can reactivate it, I guess, later on. So.
Well, then you just put in language of social media accounts that you've ever had. So that if they do that, that's they're lying. It's a form of lying.
Mhm.
But even then, we wouldn't be able to look at what's on there. I mean, that's the point. It's not, do you have one? It's what kind of content do you post on there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's true. I think both, everything is true and valid. It's just, you at least want to have some recourse after the fact. If it was like, well, you know, you had the opportunity to disclose this and you didn't, and that's cause for termination or discipline or whatever.
Exactly, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I guess I feel like this is more of a solicitor recommendation, you know, if we, well, okay, if we decide that we just want to look at what's publicly available, like, is that what we're saying we want to do?
Is it our decision to make, or is this something the council has to decide?
I don't think it's council. I think it's more like a background check thing, that it would be Chief Hawk and the detectives determining what would be most helpful in evaluating someone's background. But I don't know, but
I think the solicitors, or Falco's saying that, you know, this could open us up to liability if we, you know, we don't want something coming up back to bite us that's out there. I say just get Chief Hawk's recommendation. Do we include that or not? You know, and then we move forward.
Yeah, I can't remember in the, I did watch the video of the town council meeting where there was discussions about this, and maybe, you know, Carolyn can weigh in on it, but I do remember there being concerns about having access to social media, and making sure that that's included in the ordinance, which it now is. I don't think that reference in the ordinance is specific as to publicly accessible or all access. But I got the impression that it was to look at more than what's publicly out there.
Yeah, I would completely agree with what Falco has just said. You know, that was the consensus from council. And I do believe if something were to come up down the road where they're like, oh, you know, we don't want to dig this deep, it really in the end comes down to the majority of whatever, you know, council feels on this. But, you know, I say include it, do what you guys want to do, and then we can go from there. Council, you know, if they change their mind, that's fine. It's up to them.
I guess if it's in the ordinance that it's going to be searched, we do have to put that in the application and get an acknowledgement that the person understands that their stuff will be searched, right? I mean, just from a sort of disclosure perspective, regardless of the decision on public or private. Is that correct?
I would agree that would be the best thing as far as the best practice to disclose.
Yeah, and it's not currently in this thing, so we just have to at least add that, just from a disclosure perspective. And we can you know, decide on the public-private thing, you know, whenever.
So why don't we just add it then? Why don't we add that block that Falco talked about at the bottom of this form with the language that he recommends?
Okay.
seems reasonable.
So I'm just taking notes in this comment here, Falco, you can see.
It would be helpful to see what's in the ordinance. I didn't even remember that was written in the ordinance, anything about social media.
Yeah, again, my recollection is it was just an inclusion that a search would be done of social media. I'd have to pull up the final ordinance.
Okay, well, then if we added disclaimer here, a sign off here, then I think we're covered. Then they can look at that as part of the background check procedure. Now, but do they need, to Brian's point about which John Smith are we looking at here? Like, do we need to ask more information in this application to say, what social media accounts do you have? And please provide the links.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
That'll save time for, the whole investigation part too, the digging around, they can just submit them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in the new block, you would just have spaces, to list the various social media accounts, and then a column to provide the passwords or the access codes, whatever you need to get in beyond the settings, so that you can see everything that's posted.
Mm-hmm. And that reminds me, I was going to ask this when we were talking about the notary signature. So we had someone from the town a year or two ago when we were first talking about this, put it into a Word document so that people could fill it in electronically. However, I don't know that having a notary signature on here and some of the other, I'm not sure it lends itself to complete 100% electronic sort of submittal. Their signatures required, and like, would it make sense to make everything else, leave everything else in this Word document and then say you have to print the last 2 pages and sign and get the notary signature, so that they could insert a link? I mean, I'm imagining like trying to hand copy your Facebook link or whatever into this form as you print it out, just from a logistics perspective.
I like that idea, Amy. That's a good idea, where they can enter all the data electronically and then just print the last page or 2, whatever, that needs the signatures and notary stamp, and then scan that and put it back in.
Yeah. Or if they really want to, they can drop it off in person at the police department, right?
Well, at some point, I know, I think other agencies have made it available electronically, but I believe like the final, once it's completed, they'll have them come in, provide, a proof of their, maybe their identification, pay their $50 application fee, and hand in the final application kind of thing.
Okay. So we don't need to get too far in the weeds there, but we'll want to be specific in the posting about, here's a link where you can access the application, but then, print out the last 2 pages, get your notary stamp, and bring it in with your $50 cashier check or money order or whatever we're asking cash, if we're accepting cash.
I also heard, this is kind of along the same lines, but maybe not specifically the application. I think Northern Regional just had their first step in the process, and they offered, the very first step was the physical agility test, followed immediately thereafter by the written exam. And my understanding is anyone who might have failed the physical agility test was refunded their application fee.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there, I didn't get the sense when we've talked about this in the past, that there's not a huge percentage of people who fail the physical agility test. I know there was the one, the one guy who got like 3 steps down the path and then failed. And it was like, oh geez, we maybe should have done this sooner. But would you advise doing that for our process, Chief? Or?
Well, it certainly would be, new to McCandless, and maybe not, maybe it is worth, considering, because there's a new standard, or the Allegheny County Police Academy is offering the, what's it called? The modified Cooper standard, which I believe is more in-depth physical agility now than what we've traditionally offered. Instead of a quarter-mile run, it's a 1.5 mile run, and more stringent is my point. So you might have some more failures than you have in the past.
Okay.
I've always been a proponent of having the physical agility test first.
I would agree too. I think it's better to get it done, because then, like council said, we had taken all that time to do all these interviews, and if they didn't, what I mean, it would have saved us a step and some time. So
Yeah, and there's a cost to the written test. I don't know what it is, but that costs us some money. So that's an interesting idea.
I think
Okay, I
about
do.
$100 a test. That's
Yeah.
just start. For anyone
Wow.
who takes it, if we send them back unused tests, the town gets their money back for any unused exams, but.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay. I did at one point kind of map out the sequence of events. I don't have that ready or handy for today, but I can make that change and we can talk about it perhaps next month. Okay, so now that Brian has done all this editing, I think are we okay with what's here now on the application or any additional changes?
I'm good with it.
Okay. And there might be like, Chief and Falco, you guys might need to tweak it, but I think directionally we're fine with it. So we don't need to put it on the agenda for next month. Is that true for you, Brian and Mark?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I didn't want to assume just because I didn't hear.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so just looking at other things that were in my email and or the agenda. Okay, we talked about all that. Go back to the agenda. Focus more on the interview part of the hiring process. Yes, we had discussed that. I think that's, so June, if you're taking notes for next month's agenda, I think we ought to first look at the whole sequence of events, like in order of, like, we were just talking about physical agility test, and then we do the written test, and then we do the interview, and then secondary to that, look at the interview questions, because that's going to be where this board really plays a big role. And I think, as I recall, Denise had a pretty good list of all the processes that needed to take place. So I'll look back. I think she already has that kind of written down for us. So. And we have discussed in the past the interview questions, but we need to spend some time there and tighten that up a little bit. Okay. Community engagement updates. What's going on in the community, Chief?
Well, since our last month's meeting, we had the SROs, I think, have been asked in certain classes, I'm not sure which one specifically, to talk to the students a bit more as we get towards the end of the school year. I would count that if they are doing some guest instruction at the schools.
What are they talking about? Just curious.
That's what I wasn't certain, where they probably like law and justice, but I can probably nail down exactly what they were involved in. I know that they were doing some drug talks at the intermediate high school, 9th and 10th graders. We had them up there for a couple days. I think Sergeant Madden was up there with his canine partner as well. He did a full day or two worth of classes with Joy and talking about what the canine program offers to the community. Like I said, probably Officer Metzger, maybe even Officer Ray spoke, definitely Officer Metzger, about drugs and drug abuse and such with the 9th and 10th grade students. The officers have picked up on their walkthroughs, but that's been ongoing. We're doing more and more school walkthroughs. We're getting back to that. I don't want to say after COVID, but there was certainly a period there where, the school didn't necessarily want to bring anybody in if they didn't have to, but hopefully that's passed. The officers were involved in last weekend, and they will be again this weekend, maybe 2 weekends ago and this weekend, in assisting the community groups with the roadside cleanups. I don't know if anybody saw them a couple weekends ago. They'll be out again this Saturday, and the officers will be out assisting them, trying to help them, keep them safe and such, and in any way that they can help. So I'm going to count that as well. Otherwise, it's kind of been business as usual.
So I actually signed up for it. Tomorrow, Officer Metzger is going to be at a community event. It's called A Candid Conversation About Drugs, Alcohol, and Addiction at Marshall Middle School tomorrow night. So I thought that was great. And I did hear, I have a 9th grader and a 7th grader, and I occasionally ask them, like, you know, what happened at school? And most of the time I don't get an answer, but I did hear about Joy coming to school. So the
Good.
9th grader told me, so.
Yeah, Carolyn was just reminding me about that one with Officer Metzger that the district is having. So that should be informative.
Yeah, there's a whole panel. There's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different speakers coming. So yeah, terrific. Okay, and then do we have any, let me look at participants. Do we have any community members on? I do not see any. Okay,
I
so,
believe everyone on is involved with the board, so I don't see anyone.
right. So we would not have any public comments. Any other business that we didn't cover today that you would like to cover? Anyone? No? Okay. Our next meeting, let's see, we're April 20th, May 18th, third Wednesday in May at 9:30 a.m. So mark your calendars if you could for that. And I think that's all I had. Okay. I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
All right.
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate
Thank
your time.
you.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Yeah.